Today, we're going to show you an example of a supplement company that says one thing, yet does the other. Now, if you're a consumer of this particular brand, Elemental Formulations, you're going to learn something today. And if you are someone who's thinking about starting your own supplement company, your own supplement brand, you'll definitely learn something today, especially when it comes to testing, producing your results online, and showing your consumers. So let's get to that right now. Now, if you're new here, welcome to Mighty Startup. And the goal here is to help those of you who are thinking about starting your own supplement brand, your own food company, your own food brand, help you guys navigate through the FDA regulations, quality assurance, and regulatory requirements associated with this industry. And I've helped a lot of companies over the last 15 years plus navigate through these requirements. And I've helped businesses that are small, medium, and large, anywhere between the double-digit millions all the way up into the billions and in the global landscape. So I want to share this information to you guys because I think it's really important that the consumers and that entrepreneurs really understand these requirements, and then they build these expectations into their business and into the industry as a whole. So today we're looking at Elemental Formulations, and this is a good example of a company that is small, that's starting out. They have a good amount of followers, and it looks like they're doing pretty well, at least based on the Instagram that I've been seeing. But this is an example of a company that has really good intentions with regards to quality and testing, but it's actually not happening, right? They're not actually executing it right. And they've got the best experts, and they've got people that are very well versed in this industry, and they understand supplements and how it works in the body. And they're obviously using this because they care about what they put in their body. But on the execution phase, on the testing phase, it's not happening. This is a company that an Instagram or a YouTuber created. Let's take a look at that here. And it's this gentleman here, Omar Isuf. Hopefully I pronounced that right. And you can see here that we've got a board of advisors, right? And they've got some other folks here. They got a PhD, another PhD on here, a sports nutrition researcher, a professor on here. So they're definitely armed with the right people. That said, I don't know how much these people actually participate in the business. I don't know how involved they really are, or if, they're just paid to put their headshot and name on this website. I've seen some organizations do that. I'm not necessarily saying that that's happening here with Elemental Formulations. And let's assume that these people are the experts and they are sitting together and creating these formulas and helping to drive the business. But let's take a look at their quality guarantee. I'm going to show you guys what they're actually trying to do, which is really cool. Our commitment to quality in you in a market full of uncertainties, right? Which I get. There is a lot of bad players in the supplement industry, but there are a lot of good players. Here they talk about, the supplement industry cutting corners by adding low-cost fillers or underdosing ingredients. And so this is really where their focus is at, right? Every scoop of every Elemental product provides an unforgettable experience that can only be created by using high purity ingredients in the proper dosing. Okay, here in our testing archive, you can view the analytical results of every lot of product we have run in the history of the company. So that's kind of cool. They're actually producing the test results they have for every lot released into the market. Now, a company doesn't have to do this. It's their own information. It's proprietary information. It's their own business. They don't have to produce any of these documents. And by law, they're supposed to be complying to the regulations. So if it's in the market, we can assume that they are following the regulations to a certain degree. That's why there's still enforcement, and there's people out there watching for these companies that don't follow the regulations. But, I'm just saying here that, if you're thinking about starting your company, you don't necessarily have to produce your CFA, but I see what they're trying to do here. It's all about that transparency. It's about showing, hey, we actually care about making sure that our products deliver on the claims. So here they're saying that they're committed to providing the purest and most potent evidence-based supplements in the market. They're using third-party testing as our objective proof of our commitment to quality assurance, that you never have to question anything we create. we're going to see that that's not actually true. All right. But it's kind of cool what they're trying to do here. So this is the PDF on how to review a C of A, which I get. A C of A, is foreign to a lot of people. It's quite technical. It could be a little bit intimidating, and it could be very difficult to read or understand. A lot of us, even though we have, a PhD, a master's, or a bachelor's, you see a C of A for the first time, you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at. But I think this is really the case of showing you why, when you're starting a supplement business, they're going to have their chief marketing officer, their CEO, their chief financial officer. And I always stress you want to have a chief compliance officer. You want to have someone on your side. And this is where I come in, right? Someone like myself would come in, you would bring me on, and I would help you understand what the regulations are so that you can make the informed decision that's right for your business. Plug in some of those regulatory requirements that are absolutely needed by FDA and bring that to you right off the bat. We can't rely on our manufacturers. We can't rely on our network to necessarily tell us. And this is a classic example of that because you've got PhDs, people with a master's degree that knows what they're talking about. But when it comes to compliance, it's a completely different field. So anyway, let's get into this checklist. So the first thing that they're saying, well, you should review the analytical lab, like who performed it, right? Are they a reputable and established testing lab? And I truly agree with that. I think the vast majority of people don't understand or know what are the big names, but for those of us that are in the industry, we definitely want to go to the big names, the ones that are reputable, that are very well recognized, that are global if possible. And so this is a legitimate question. The next one, ensure lot number matches the product. Of course, you want to make sure that the test results of that C of A match to the actual lot in hand. Ensure sample size matches to the serving size. Yes, and I understand where they're coming from. You want to make sure that the test results reflect that of the serving size. I would also go one step further and make the argument that the sample size also needs to be reflective of the actual production run. So someone like myself would actually work with the manufacturer, work with the business to figure out, okay, well, out of that 1,000 tub run, right? Like say you did 1,000 tubs of whey protein, right? How much sample did you use to actually test the entire lot, right? Did you only test like 30 grams out of 1,000 tub run, or did you actually test several samples throughout the run, beginning, middle, end? So there's enough of that powder so that it's statistically reflective of the actual size of the production run. So I would go at that extra step. I'm not necessarily saying that consumers need to, but I'm just giving you some insight from a quality point of view. Ensure product testing conditions match intended use and storage conditions. Yep, that's true. I would say 100% of the time this is the case, unless some of you may have come across that, point something percent where that wasn't the case, but the vast majority of the time, the lab is going to be using the right storage conditions that are on the label. So when you're reviewing the test results, they're asking the first question, are there impurities present if analyzed? Does the ingredient test result show at least the minimum level specified by the brand on their supplement facts panel within the standard area of plus or minus 10% for multi-ingredient products? I don't know where they got this number from. I mean, I can suspect or speculate where they got that range from, but I would argue that that is not a golden rule. So don't trust this plus or minus 10%. And it really depends on the method. It really depends on the actual active ingredient that you're testing for, or whatever you're testing for. So wherever that hard rule plus or minus 10% that they came up with, I would say that is not a legitimate one, but I mean, it gives you an idea. And then they ask, is there an ingredient overage? And this is, an overage is an extra amount that a company could sprinkle into the formula just to add a little bit of buffer in case there's a natural fluctuation in the test results. So for example, let's just say we're testing rose hips for vitamin C, and in rose hips, there's going to be naturally occurring variability because, this is a botanical. Some crops, some batches of the crop are going to have higher levels of vitamin C and others are going to have lower amounts. And let's just say over the history we look at, there's roughly, a swing of 5%. right? Sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less. But to make sure that our consumers are getting at least 100% of the label claim, we're going to put in 5% more just to cover that. And that 5% more is what is considered the overage. Review the method references. Yeah, you could. I think the vast majority of people won't even understand this. I mean, when they say HPLC, GCMS, test methods or instruments used, I don't think the majority of consumers are going to understand that. But for those of us that do, yes, you could definitely look at that. That said, it's only providing us a very, very small picture of what is actually happening. And the test methods too will be adjusted based on the lab. They'll be revised based on the product. There's just so much variability in here that even though you know what the instrumentation was used, you don't really know the specific protocol that was in place. So yes, to a degree, this helps, but to the accuracy and really understanding that, it really doesn't give us a full picture. Is the analysis dated and contact information provided? Of course, we want to make sure that this is signed. It's got someone's name and date as well. So I want to talk about what they're not testing for, which is funny because they're actually telling you to watch out for it, but they're not actually doing it. And let's look at creatine, for example, right? Everyone uses creatine, at least in his consumer base. I suspect, I know I've used it in the past. So, they're talking about the things you want to look out for. The company name, the lot number, the sample size, right? The serving size, which is all there. The description is good. And then they're actually testing for the creatine and they're hitting the 5 gram call out per serving. It's meeting label claim. That's what they're saying. And they're giving you the type of method that was used here, although it wasn't that specific. It's just saying the method reference here. That's it. That's the whole C of A. But what's interesting is if we go back to, okay, well, what are you supposed to look at in your C of A? The first thing that I noticed is when reviewing test results, are there impurities present? That's the first question. And in this C of A that they had, they weren't testing for it, right? So they're only focused on the label claim of creatine, the active component. But they're not talking about the impurities, right? These are the things that can harm you, right? Or what are all the things that you test to make sure they're not in the product, right? Right now they're focused on what's in the product. What about testing for things that aren't supposed to be in the product at all? And that's not covered here whatsoever. And I don't know if they have those results somewhere else or if they completely forgot about it. Impurities such as your microbial contaminants, your heavy metals, your chemical contaminants, your allergens, none of that's here. Your salmonella, your listeria. I don't know what those results look like. And I hope that they actually tested for that. Otherwise, if they didn't, they are out of compliance. They should not be releasing this product out into the market. And, their manufacturer is someone that they should be talking to. And them as a business should be making sure the manufacturer is doing things right. And this is where, having someone like myself by your side can give that guidance to you and then also to your manufacturer and also build out the right specification. A specification goes beyond the label claim amount, right? From FDA standpoint, they're looking at identity, strength, potency, purity, and composition, right? Those 5 things. And right now, all they're telling me is strength. They're not telling me anything about ID. Purity isn't in there. Composition, perhaps, but we would need to dive into that more with the manufacturer, right? That is huge. We don't know what they've done here. And yes, they tested creatine and they got a 5.03 gram serving size. But here's the thing. This is just one piece of the puzzle. It's just potency. But it is well known in the market that there are certain ingredients that you can falsify the results. So you'll get the appropriate test results. So for example, HPLC, you'll get the right peaks so that it looks like the intended molecule that you're targeting. So that looks like the intended creatine spike. It's the right peak at that right area of the graph. But it could be an adulterant. It could be some other molecule that looks like creatine, but it isn't creatine. That's why you have to look at all these other things as part of the supply chain program, as part of your qualification of the raw materials and the receiving process of the raw materials, and then also putting that on your spec. saying that this is what's happening, that they are, releasing product that isn't been tested for pathogens. I'm not necessarily saying that. I'm just saying that, the focus has been too heavily on potency. They're not testing for purity. And this is just a good example of having all the best intentions, all the experts in the business, but where a business fails in execution. You've got a business concept, a supplement concept that you want to talk through, make sure that, it's got legs. You want to make sure that you're on the right track with regards to compliance, or you want to watch out for some of those compliance issues or costs or requirements. Let me know. I have sessions that I hold with clients like yourself, and we can talk through it together, walk through your product label, walk through your product formula, and dive into the specifics. So I'm going to leave it there. It was fun doing this. I will see you next one. Cheers.